Tell me about you and Haley.
You want to know more about Haley Greenwood, do you? Well, she was a lovely young woman, full of life and spirit. We met at a social gathering here in Vaudeville. She was fascinated by my collection, particularly the ancient artifacts from Egypt. We spent quite a bit of time discussing their history and significance. Is there something specific you would like to know?
Were you in a relationship?
Oh, relationships, you say? Well, my dear detective, I must admit that I have had my fair share of romantic entanglements throughout the years. Women have always been a source of fascination for me, with their charm and allure. But pray, enlighten me, why this sudden interest in my romantic endeavors? Oh, my dear detective, I must say you have a vivid imagination. Haley and I. In a relationship? Oh, heavens no. While I do appreciate her company and enjoy her enthusiasm for my collection, we are simply friends. I am a man of refined tastes and have many acquaintances, but a romantic relationship with Haley. That's a delightful notion, but purely fictional, I assure you. Now, let's move on to more interesting topics, shall we?
But her best friend said you were together.
Her best friend said we were together. How intriguing. Pray, do tell me more. I find it quite fascinating how rumors and misunderstandings can take root and blossom into such elaborate tales. But rest assured, my good detective Martini, there is no truth to such gossip. I can only imagine the mischief and mischief maker behind such claims. Perhaps there is a motive hidden amidst the whispers. But enough of this hearsay, let us focus on matters of substance, like the captivating treasures in my possession.
Tell me about you and Maria.
Maria Jansen, you say? Now there's a name I haven't heard in a while. Maria was a remarkable woman, full of grace and charm. We crossed paths at a soiree, and she was captivated by my collection, particularly the antique jewelry from France. We had some delightful conversations about art and culture. But I must say, our interactions were purely platonic. I do wonder, though, why you bring up Maria. Is there something specific you'd like to know about her?
What in particular was she interested in?
Oh, how splendid. I'm delighted to hear that you're interested in something from my vast array of treasures. Let me think for a moment. I have just the thing. Have you ever seen a genuine Faberge egg? I have one in my possession, a stunning piece crafted by the renowned Russian jeweler himself. It's an exquisite work of art, adorned with precious gemstones and intricate detailing. Would you like me to show it to you?
Yes.
Marvelous. I'm thrilled that you're eager to see my prized Faberge egg. It's truly a sight to behold. Now, if you'll excuse me for a moment, I'll retrieve it from its secure display case. It's quite delicate, you see, and I wouldn't want any harm to befall such a treasure. Just a brief wait, my dear detective, and I shall return with the magnificent creation in hand.
Whoops, I dropped it.
Dropped it. Goodness gracious. I hope it isn't damaged. Pray, do tell me, Detective Martini, is the precious artifact unharmed?
No, it shattered into a million pieces.
Shattered into a million pieces, you say? My goodness, that is truly unfortunate. I must admit, I am rather curious as to how such a mishap could occur. Could you kindly enlighten me on the circumstances surrounding this unfortunate incident?
My hands are a bit sweaty and I dropped it.
Spicy hands, you say? How peculiar. I can't help but wonder what might have caused your hands to become spicy. Detective Martini, do share with me the secret behind this intriguing phenomenon. I'm quite fascinated by the unexpected twists and turns life can take. Pray, do tell me more about your spicy hands and how it led to the demise of the Fabergé.
I got them from eating my dinner.
My dear detective, forgive me if I seem a tad confused. We were discussing the unfortunate incident with the shattered Fabergé, and now you mention not running from eating your dinner. I see. So it was your dinner that caused your hands to become sweaty and ultimately led to the mishap with the Fabergé. How intriguing. It seems that even the most mundane occurrences can have unexpected consequences. Pray, do tell me, what was it about your dinner that made your hands so perspiring? I'm quite intrigued by this culinary mystery.
It was spicy.
how fascinating. Spicy food, you say? Well, I must admit, I do enjoy a bit of spice in my meals from time to time. The tingling sensation on the palate can be rather invigorating. But I must say, I've never encountered a dish that made my hands feel perspiratory. This is truly a remarkable occurrence, Detective Martini. I must ask, what was the dish that possessed such fiery flavors and had such an effect on your delicate constitution?
Do you not care that I broke your precious egg?
Care, my dear detective, I am indeed curious about the circumstances surrounding the breakage of the Fabergé. But care, no, I cannot claim to be overly distraught.
But
You
it's
see, as a collector,
precious.
I understand that accidents can happen, even to the most treasured possessions. While it is unfortunate that the egg is now in pieces, I find myself more interested in the story behind its demise. It adds a certain intrigue to the piece's history, wouldn't you agree?
But it's very valuable and one of a kind.
Valuable and one of a kind, you say? Well, that certainly piques my interest. I must admit, Detective Martini, I am quite intrigued by the rarity and value of the shattered artifact. It seems we have stumbled upon an unexpected twist in this tale. Pray, do tell me more about the origins and significance of this particular Fabergé. I'm eager to learn all there is to know
You
about.
should know about it. What other motives could he have?
So, tell us, Detective Martini.
Okay.
Who is the interesting choice, Detective Martini? May I ask you why?
Were they married? As a ritual to steal something? For a love obsession, for the thrill, for revenge? For jealousy? And for sinning. Let's try for jealousy.
Are you sure, Detective Martini? And why? Interesting choice, Detective Martini. May I ask you why? I am not quite convinced of your
Not
theories,
quite
Detective
convinced. It's definitely him. Count Graveson denies being related with Haley. Hello? Hello?
Oh, hey there. How's it going? I'm so glad you stopped by. It's always nice to see a friendly face around here. So, what brings you to Coral today? Are you looking for some inspiration or maybe just a little break from all the detective work? Whatever it is, I'm here to cheer you on.
Count Graveson denies being in a relationship with Haley.
No,
So-
love is in the air, isn't it? Detective Martini, you sly fox. I must say, Denali's quite the catch.
Who the heck
I mean,
is Denali?
who wouldn't fall for those piercing eyes and that charming smile? You two make such a lovely couple. It's like a scene straight out of a romantic novel. Love is a beautiful thing, and I'm so happy for you both. May your relationship be filled with joy, laughter, and lots of adventures together. Cheers to love.
Who is Denali?
Denali. Yeah, my apologies. I got a bit carried away there, didn't I? It seems I may have misunderstood something.
Seems to me.
Please forgive my enthusiasm. So, tell me, what's been... Well, Detective Martini, you've been keeping secrets from me. So, who is this mysterious Denali? I'm all ears, spill the tea. Is he another detective, or perhaps a charming musician? You know, I'm always up for a good love story.
What?
Details, my dear detective friend. I'm dying to hear all about this special someone in your life. Don't leave me hanging.
You are making things up. Who is Denali?
Denali, who's that? I'm sorry, I must have gotten carried away with my imagination. Sometimes my mind just wanders off into its own little world. But hey, let's focus on the present. Oh, Detective Martini, you're such a curious soul. Always digging for the truth. But let me tell you, relationships can be quite tricky sometimes. People deny things all the time, especially when they're afraid or have something to hide. Maybe Mr. Graveson is just protecting himself or someone else. You know, love can make people do strange things. But we can't let those denials discourage us from seeking the truth, right? We must keep searching for answers and justice for Haley.
What motive would he have to murder?
Oh, dear detective, you have a mind full of mysteries. Motives can be as complex as a dance routine, don't you think? But let's consider the possibilities. Perhaps Mr. Grayson had some sort of personal or professional rivalry with Haley's mother. Or maybe there was a hidden secret, a tangled web of emotions and conflicts that we can't even fathom. Love, jealousy, revenge. They all have the power to drive a person to do unimaginable things.
Oh, you just said every
So
single
let's not jump to
motive.
conclusions.
Tell me about the rivalry with Haley's mother.
Detective Martini, you have such a vivid
You literally
imagination.
listed every
Rivalries can
single
be quite
motive.
intriguing, don't you think? But in this case, I must confess that I have no knowledge of any specific rivalry between
Okay.
Mr. Graveson and Haley's mother. You see, my world revolves around the vibrant and enchanting Vaudeville, and I'm not privy to the details of people's lives outside of our beloved city. So, let's focus on what we do know and continue our quest for the truth, shall we?
Tell me about Count Graveson and Maria.
Oh, you mentioned Count Gravison and Maria. What do you want to know about them? Do you think they had some sort of connection? I mean, they were both involved in that failed business venture in India, right? It's just strange to think that they could be connected to Maria's murder. But then again, you never know what goes on behind closed doors, do you?
Tell me more.
Well, from what I heard, Mr. and Mrs. Potter, along with Count Gravison, Haley Greenwood, Nikola Grossman, and of course Maria Jansen, were all planning to start a business together in India. They went on an expedition there to evaluate the possibilities. But things didn't go as planned, and tensions arose, leading to the failure of the project. It's quite intriguing, isn't it? I wonder if there were any unresolved issues between them that could have somehow led to these tragic events. It's also mysterious.
Tell me more.
Oh, you want to know more? Well, let me think. I do remember hearing some rumors about Mrs. Potter and Count Gravison spending a lot of time together lately. You know, whispers of a possible romance. But I never really paid much attention to it. I mean, affairs and scandals are not uncommon in our high society, right? But now that you mention it, could there be a connection? Could their relationship have something to do with what happened to poor Maria? It's all so shocking and unexpected. I just hope we can uncover the truth soon.
What do you think would have been the cause?
In the cold. I'm not sure I understand what you mean. Are you suggesting that the murder could have taken place in the cold? Like outdoors in the winter? It's an interesting thought, but I'm not sure how it would fit with what we know so far. I always imagined the murder happening somewhere more discreet, you know? Wait, are you suggesting that Mrs. Potter and Count Gravison's affair could have some implications for the murders? That's quite a thought. I hadn't considered that angle before. It's true that secrets and hidden relationships can sometimes lead to unforeseen consequences. If they were having an affair, it could have caused tensions and conflicts within their social circle. Possibly even involving Maria. But of course, it's all speculation at this point. We need to gather more evidence and facts before jumping to any conclusions.
How was Maria involved?
Maria's involvement in the situation is still unclear to me. I mean, she was a part of that failed business venture in India with Mrs. Potter. Mr. and Mrs. Grossman, Haley Greenwood, and Count Gravison. But beyond that, I don't know much about her connection to Mrs. Potter and Count Gravison's potential affair. Maybe there's something I'm missing. Did you discover anything that suggests a direct link between them? It's also perplexing.
Tell me about Mrs. Grossman.
You know, speaking of Mrs. Grossman, there's something interesting I noticed a couple of months ago at the country club. I was in the changing room with Mrs. Potter, and I couldn't help but notice some bruises on her back. When I asked her about them, she claimed they were from a fall off a horse. But here's the thing, Detective Martini, I've known Mrs. Potter for quite some time. And she has never been one to ride horses. It struck me as quite odd.
Tell me more.
That's right, Mrs. Grossman. I'm sorry, I got a bit sidetracked there. So, as I was saying, Mrs. Potter's explanation about the bruising seemed a bit suspicious to me. I mean, if she doesn't normally engage in equestrian activities, then how did she end up with those marks? It just doesn't add up, does it? Perhaps there's more to Mrs. Potter's story than meets the eye. Maybe it's worth investigating further to see if there's any connection between her. Detective, I must say, I find it rather surprising that you're bringing up Mrs. Potter's and Count Gravisena's affair in relation to the murders. I don't see how their personal relationship could have anything to do with the tragic events that have occurred. It's important to focus on the facts and evidence at hand rather than speculating about people's personal lives. Let's stay focused on finding the truth and bringing justice to those who have been affected by these crimes.
Would Count Graveson have murdered Nikola Grossman as revenge for Mrs. Grossman injuring Mrs. Potter?
Oh, I'm sorry, but I don't quite understand what you're trying to say. Are you suggesting that Count Grevison had some involvement in Nikola Grossman's injury or that he sought revenge for Mrs. Grossman? And who is Mrs. Papa? It seems like there might be some confusion or missing information here. Could you please clarify? I'm curious to understand the connections you're trying to make. Count Gravison assaulting Mr. Grossman. Mrs. Grossman injuring Mrs. Potter as a form of revenge. This is all getting rather dramatic and complicated. I must admit, I find it hard to believe such accusations without concrete evidence. It's important to remember not to jump to conclusions or make assumptions based on rumors or speculation. We need solid facts to connect the dots and find the truth behind these tragic events. Let's focus on gathering more information before drawing any conclusions, shall we?
I heard Mrs. Graveson attacked you.
Oh dear, it seems that Mrs. Graves is causing
Miss
quite a
Graveson.
commotion, doesn't it? How scandalous. But you know, gossip can be such a dreadful thing, don't you agree? It's best not to get too involved in such matters. Oh dear, Mrs. Grossman. Such a tragedy, isn't it? It's terribly unfortunate what happened to her. But you know, one mustn't dwell on such dark thoughts. Life is far too short for that. We must focus on the brighter side of things. Don't you agree?
What happened to her? What happened to her?
Oh, it's quite dreadful, really. Poor Mrs. Grossman met an untimely end. They say she was found dead in her own home, under mysterious circumstances. Some say it was foul play, others whisper about a tragic accident. But you know, my dear, the truth always has a way of revealing itself, doesn't it? It's also intriguing, like something out of a thrilling novel. But let's not get caught up in all that gloom. We have much more pleasant topics to discuss, don't we?
Tell me more.
My apologies if I seemed a bit too cheerful earlier.
I didn't
Sometimes,
call you emo.
even the sunniest of dispositions can be clouded by a touch of melancholy. Life has its ups and downs, don't you think? But worry not, my friend, for I shall not let this momentary sadness dampen our spirits. Let's find something delightful to focus on, shall we? Perhaps...
I mean,
Let's see what you got.
did we
Detective
try for
Martini.
revenge?
Are you sure, Detective Martini? And why?
It wouldn't be for revenge for her, would it? For the inheritance? I mean, you know, if they were married, maybe. To set someone by accident? Maybe he does it all by accident? I'm gonna go with for revenge.
Interesting choice, Detective Martini. May I ask you why? Are you
Just
sure, Detective
because.
Martini? And why? I am not quite convinced of your theories,
I'm not quite
Detective
convinced either.
Martini.